order. 6:31, apologies for the delay. Can we have roll call, please?
Ms. Turner,
Present.
Mr. Burris,
Here.
Mr. Rabowski,
Here.
Ms. Simon.
Here. Thank you. And if our attorney can explain our quasi-judicial procedures, please?
I sure can. Before we do that, I would like to, not an issue, but just a recommendation on the agenda. There is, number 6 is the comprehensive plan workshop. Before you can start the workshop, you're going to have to adjourn the regular meeting and then begin the workshop. But if you see on the agenda, the approval of the minutes is number 7. Since no actual action can be taken at a workshop, item number 7 is going to need to be moved to item number 6, and 6 will need to be number 7.
All right. Thank you. So if we can flip-flop those. So we have, after application 2264, we'll go to approval of minutes, and then we will adjourn, so that way we can reconvene for the comp plan workshop.
Yes.
We don't need to vote on it.
No, you don't need to vote on that.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
And now I will proceed. This is a quasi-judicial proceeding where the Board of Adjustment acts in a quasi-judicial rather than a legislative capacity. At a quasi-judicial hearing, it is not the board's function to make law, but rather to apply law that has already been established. In a quasi-judicial hearing, the board is required by law to make findings of fact based upon the evidence presented at the hearing and apply those findings of fact to previously established criteria contained in the Code of Ordinances in order to make a legal decision regarding the application before it. The board may only consider evidence at this hearing that the law considers competent, substantial, and relevant to the issues. If the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at the hearing demonstrates that the applicant has met the criteria established in the Code of Ordinance, then the board is required by law to find in favor of the applicant. By the same token, if the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at the hearing demonstrates that the applicant has failed to meet the criteria established in the Code of Ordinance, then the board is required by law to find against the applicant. Are there any members of the board wishing to disclose any ex parte communications or conflicts of interest this evening? Okay. Anyone wishing to speak this evening, if you could please stand and raise your right hand to be sworn in. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, so sworn.
Thank you. So if we can move to application number 22-55, which is the variance to reduce the required rear and side yard setbacks for the construction of a pool screen enclosure at 705 North Florida Avenue. Allie, when you're ready, if you could present this item for us.
Allie Keene, Senior Planner, Planning and Zoning. You will notice that the original request is for a reduction of the side and rear yard setback. Upon further review of the application, we did determine it is just a side setback request. The rear does meet the requirement. This property is located off of Florida Avenue. It's highlighted here in red. The surrounding area is a mixture of single-family residential zoning. This property is particularly in the R100 zoning district. The applicants are here today requesting a variance to reduce the side yard setback for a new pool screen enclosure to be installed around an existing pool that's been on the property from, we've determined, at least since 1980. They're requesting the side yard to be 2 feet from the southern property line here, whereas they'd be required to have a 8-foot side yard setback for the enclosure. This is a look at their proposed site plan. The pool screen enclosure is primarily going to follow their existing pool deck. Again, the Land Development Code does have specific setback requirements for pool screen enclosures. The rear requirement is a minimum of 5 feet plus outside any easement. In this case, their enclosure would be a minimum of 5 feet, and it's outside of an existing utility easement. It also requires that enclosures have a minimum separation distance between the water's edge and the enclosure, and that separation distance is 3 feet. The proposed enclosure will meet the 3-foot separation distance along the rear as well as to the side. In this case, the side setback requirement is 8 feet minimum for enclosure, and they're requesting a 2-foot setback along the southern property line, basically because of the existing pool's layout and location on the property. This is an overview of your review criteria for a variance, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do any board members have any questions of the staff? I just wanted to clarify that's it's just the south, and it is the south
The side, yes.
side and the south.
Correct.
Thank you. So no questions?
Oh, point of order,
Yes,
just,
sir.
I guess for the attorney. Since we don't have a full board, is it wise to advise people that they have an option?
No. No, that doesn't necessarily apply to your board. That's in the Heritage Preservation Board's rules, governing rules. It's not really in your rules of procedure. I mean, you don't have a full board, but your board is 5 at a full board, so you'd still require a 3-vote majority in order to have an affirmative vote for a variance. So no, it's not necessary.
Thank you.
Yes, of course.
So no other questions? All right, if the applicant is present, they are welcome to come up to present information. Were you sworn in, sir? Okay, if you would like to come up to the podium. And if you could please state your name and address for the record, sir.
Brandon Thomas, 705 North Florida.
Thank you. Is there any information that you would like to present to us tonight that is not already included in the packet?
No, she went over it very well. It's just, like I said, it's just that side setback. I wish I had the opportunity to install the pool because I wouldn't have installed it that close to the fence line. I would have centered it on my house, but unfortunately it's in that corner.
I understand. Well, thank you. If you can hold on one sec, are there any questions of the applicant? No? Okay, looks like you're free to go. So, is there any one in the public that would like to make any comments on this application? Seeing none, did we have anything submitted via email or mail?
We did not.
Okay. All right, so we're going to close public comment at this time. And if we can have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second?
So we have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Do you want any discussion?
Do we want to have any discussion? Thank you, ma'am.
Ready?
All right.
Ms.
No.
Simon? Approve. Mr. Burris?
Yes.
Mr. Urbowski?
Yes.
Ms. Turner?
Yes. All right. Happy screening. So our next application, number 22-59, which is a variance to reduce the required side yard setback for a detached garage at 1503 Tessier Drive. So if we can have staff presentation, please.
All right. This subject property is just around the corner from the last location off of East Tessier Drive, again outlined in red here on the screen. The surrounding area is a single-family residential zoning mix. This property is in the R100 zoning district. The applicant is here today requesting approval of an after-the-fact variance to allow an existing detached garage to have a reduced side yard setback. The existing garage is set back 5 feet from the side property line. The Land Development Code requires a minimum 7.5 side setback. A building permit was issued for the construction of the existing home as well as the detached garage on the property back in 2014. At the time, that permit was approved with a 5-foot side setback for the detached garage. Subsequently, the garage was constructed in 2014 with that 5-foot side yard setback. The Land Development Code allows the Board of Adjustments to grant an after-the-fact variance in the highly unusual circumstances that the 4 criteria here on the screen have been met. Those include the property owner or contractor has made a mistake in the construction of a structure and it would be economically impractical to correct the mistake at the time it was discovered. The appropriate building permit or other use permit has been issued. Such mistake could not have been avoided by the application or normal construction or business practices. In such case is proven before the board by competent substantial evidence. This slide is showing you 2 different site plans. The one on the left over here was the site plan that was submitted with the permit and approved. As you can see, the detached garage was approved. It's very tiny, but a 5-foot side setback from their west property line. The survey that's shown here on the right is the post-construction survey. And again, the detached garage was constructed with a 5-foot side setback. In this case, it's this number here. Staff did do research on the permitting history of this property and this project. We were unable to determine the circumstances that led to the approval of the nonconformity. It essentially could have been an oversight at the time the application was reviewed initially. So again, the applicant did construct what was permitted and issued in their permit. We also took this application to the technical review committee, as we do with all applications, to review for any sort of potential concerns or issues. Both the code enforcement department as well as the fire department did go out and determine that there were no safety issues with the reduced side setback or the location of the proposed or the existing garage. The Land Development Code allows reduced side and rear yard setbacks for detached garages if they have certain size limitations met. In the R100 zoning district, the maximum size that's allowed to get those reductions is 562.5 square feet. The existing garage is approximately 440 square feet in size, so it does meet those size limitations. When you meet the size limitations, you can take advantage of a rear setback of 5 feet and a side setback of 7.5 feet. In the instance that a detached garage was proposed and exceeds those size limitations, then we default to the zoning district setbacks. One consideration with this property is the affected property line, the west property line, is the side property line for the subject property. However, for the adjacent property to the west, it is the rear property line due to the orientation of this house. In the future, if this property owner were to construct a detached garage within those size limitations, it could be only 5 feet from the same property line. Again, these are your review criteria specifically for an after-the-fact variance. These are the 4 criteria that I read earlier in the presentation. With that, I am happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
I mean, just how did we get here? I understand that you had researched how it got permitted, but since it was permitted, why is it in front of our board?
Sure. So this originally came to our attention from a complaint to code enforcement. That's when research took place, and then we consulted with our attorneys, and they determined that to rectify the issue and to legally recognize the nonconformity, the best factor and best avenue was to go through the after-the-fact variance approval process. Again, with any variance, it's up to the board whether the evidence and criteria have been met. Yes.
Yes. Will they be using the same concrete pad?
They're not building anything new. They're just requesting basically to recognize the existing structure that's on the property that has a 5-foot setback can remain.
It's an after the fact. There.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing new is being proposed.
Built 8 years ago.
Correct.
Okay. Follow, and to clarify, so what was built 8 years ago, that's before us here, was built in accordance to what the permitted documents were showing, which is 5 feet side and 5 feet rear, when it really should have had a 7.5 feet side.
Correct.
Okay, so thank you for that clarification. Do we have any other questions of staff? Okay, all right, so let's move on. If the applicant is present, if they would like to come up and present any information.
In this case, staff is the applicant.
I do believe the property owner is here. I don't know if it's up to the board if you'd like to hear from them.
Is that?
That's fine because the property owner can be considered a witness, but in this case, staff is the applicant for the variance.
True. Gotcha. You're always throwing us a curveball there.
Sorry.
That's okay. So, well, if we maybe can go to public comment, and the property owner and anyone else would be considered public comment. So if anyone would like to speak about this, please come up to the podium.
And if you could please state your name and address for the record.
Well, what's brought this out is the code enforcement at my property.
Sir, before you continue, if you could please state your name and address for the record.
Joe Hamilton, 620 North Florida Avenue.
Thank you.
What brought this to light was the code enforcement at my property over my sheds. Code enforcement came out. I moved the sheds. They said, hey, you got to move your sheds. We adhered, you got to have a 5 feet separation from the property line for the sheds. I said, okay, I'll move the sheds back. I was notified that I was in violation, so I moved the sheds back. When code enforcement was out, I said, how about the garage next door? Why are they allowed to be closer to the property line? And they're not subject to code enforcement. And it's important to understand too that the house next door is elevated, and that the eave of the house is the 16-inch eave, possibly 18. So the actual distance off the property line is closer to 3.5 feet, not 5 feet. This 5 feet is to the foundation. So that's my question. Why is that property not subject to code enforcement as I have been?
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for?
I have a question.
Yes, sir?
Did you say that you had to move a shed?
I moved my sheds.
Okay.
Okay, because there was, I just reorganized the backyard, and I put it about a foot too close to the fence.
I understand. Did you have a concrete pad on that?
No,
No, just moved it and that was the end of it, okay.
right. But it's the same variance. It's the same violation from the same code that I was quoted, and that's when
How long you had the shed there, I'm sorry?
I bought the house a couple years ago. The shed had been, it's an old shed. The guy had some gardening stuff in the back, and I tore all that out and moved the shed where the gardening stuff was. But which brought the shed about a foot too close to the fence. So there was a huge issue over it. Code enforcement, I got a letter within 48 hours to move the shed back. The funny thing about it is I moved the shed back. I no sooner moved the shed back and I reconnected the electrical to the shed for the light, and I was found in violation for not having an electrical permit. So I had to come down to the city and say, what's going on? Well, you're in violation, you don't have an electrical permit. I said, all I did was reconnect the same shed. I said, well, gotta have a permit. Gotta play by the rules around here, buddy. So what I find interesting is not everybody's gotta play by the rules. So that's my question. Why is the city not pursuing other code violations? I've had all kinds of issues with my fence, issues with the other property issues were so bad the city actually came out of pocket and paid to move the fence because of the hardships that were created.
Sir, I understand that, you certainly are facing these challenges, and I do appreciate that you took the extra effort to move your sheds on your property to make sure your property was in compliance. So that's certainly recognized and appreciated. From what we're understanding, as we're presented from city staff, the applicant is actually the city itself. It's not the property owner, because the city staff 8 years ago, which is not Ms. Keene or anyone else sitting here,
Right.
had erred when they issued the permit for the construction of this garage. So, Ms. Keene, if you can clarify, is the garage in question, is this a permanent structure, something on a foundation, so it's not like this
Correct.
cannot physically be moved 2.5 feet?
Correct, it's considered a permanent structure.
Permanent structure. And if you could maybe clarify before I'll come back to that. Does anyone else have any other questions or concerns?
I do, but not necessarily for this gentleman, I guess for Ally and our attorney.
Right.
If we were to deny the variance to the city, what happens then?
If the variance is denied because you feel that the evidence doesn't meet the criteria, then the applicant, just like any other applicant, has the recourse to take an appeal of that within the 30-day time period that's allotted with a court of competent jurisdiction. And there may be some other remedies at law between the property owner and whatnot and the city. So I am not the property owner's attorney, so I'm not going to advise on that. But just like anyone, if you deny a variance, then they have a right to an appeal.
And that appeal process, for clarification, would be the city going before the circuit court?
Correct. And then however that fleshes out will determine what ends up happening with the shed, or the garage, excuse me.
Well, and one more thing, a similar situation happened with the approval of my privacy fence. It was approved, fence went up, then it was disapproved. Hey, we made a mistake, we're pulling your permit. Okay, they pulled the permit. I go out, go through the process, again, a second time. I submitted on pictures. The city said, if you put this fence up, we'll be okay. I said, okay, I'll put that fence up. So I put the fence up. $4,000 or $5,000 later, put the fence up. Fence is not up, 2 days. Here comes code enforcement. Hey, fence got to go. I said, it's the fence you told me to put up. They said, yeah, well, we got some issues with it because if the pickets are perfectly lined up, it creates a visibility issue. Now, mind you, one way, one lane street. I said, well, surely there's got to be another option. Why can't you change the flow of traffic? Why isn't there a simpler solution rather than continue to create a financial hardship on me?
Sir, when was this?
Allie?
Well, and I'm going to stop that right now because while I appreciate that, that doesn't have anything to do with the variance application that's before you today. We're not here discussing a fence. We're here discussing the garage on a separate property.
Well, my point is, the city approved the permit for the fence as well, acknowledged their mistake for the fence, and the city paid to move the fence. The city said, hey, listen, we made a mistake. It's our mistake. We're going to make it right. The city contracted directly with the fence company, spent taxpayers' dollars to move the fence that they approved.
And I do understand that. And the city was in the wrong. And it was unfortunately, you were in the middle of it. And it sounds like they righted the wrong by the moving the fence. Now, in this situation, thinking logically, and we're all residents and taxpayers,
Sure.
Here in the city, I agree. That's frustrating that our tax dollars and our hard-earned money is used to move this fence. I understand that frustration, but I'm thinking, wow, what an amazing frustration that would be to move or tear down a whole structure garage. So a garage versus a fence, that's where, taking some practicality, which is kind of the nature of this board, to where, that's why we have the human element here, to where, as you can see, Ms. Keene went through the criteria that's before us, is that we are to look at that and use the human sense to make that determination, what is the best and most appropriate course of action, while staying within the criteria that's before us, which, Ms. Keene, I believe it was the site history slide. So it's the criteria that we have to determine as a board, again, being the humans and not looking just at the black and white, is that we can grant an after-the-fact variance, which is what this is, in these highly unusual circumstances, which I feel we can agree that this is a highly unusual circumstance, that the property owner or contractor made a mistake in the construction of it and would be economically impractical to correct the mistake at the time it was discovered. So,
well,
I'm just saying these are the criteria that we are held to. What is economically impractical?
And I understand that, but my question to you would be, what's the cost?
The cost of moving a shed a structure garage 2.5 feet?
Is it $5,000? Is it $7,000? And how does that compare to the my property value, the impact of my property value?
Well, I do have to say that property value is not one of the criteria that we are here to look at. That's not what is in our rules and regulations in the Land Development Code. Mr. Boris?
Yes, I have a question. How long was the old shed at the old position, the shed at the old position?
Oh, I don't have any idea. I bought the house, I believe, in late 19. And I moved it probably a year or so later.
Okay.
I mean, it's an old shed. It's not a new shed. It was an old shed that I moved.
So you're replacing the shed now, is that what's happening?
No.
You're just moving it?
I just moved an existing shed.
So he moved it and it's now in compliance.
For you to move that shed, it's not going to take the amount of dollars that's going to move a whole garage with a concrete pad and everything else.
Well, I understand it's going to be expensive.
Okay.
But my question to you is, if it creates a financial hardship, what's the break point? Is it $5,000? Is it $10,000? At what point does the board say, you know what? We made a mistake. We got to own it. We got to, we got to make it happen.
Yeah, but the key to this is the shed can be moved without any cost. other than the electric that you mentioned? The permit for the electric?
You gotta pay somebody to move the shed. They don't move them for free.
And what did it cost you?
$500 each time.
Each time, meaning what? How many times you moved it?
I moved it and had to move it back.
So, and in looking at this criteria, the other one is that such mistakes could not have been avoided by the application or normal construction or business practices. The permit was issued with a 5-foot setback.
Which was a mistake, right?
Which was a mistake, and it was constructed with that 5-foot setback. 8 years have passed, and in those 8 years, those last couple years, you did purchase your property as well. I do see this as an innocent mistake. Our city staff, they're very talented, they work very hard, but they are human. And I do not feel that there's malicious intent by the property owner nor the city staff in doing this.
I don't know that I don't disagree with that. I don't think anyone did anything on purpose. But the facts that my issue is that I was held to a different standard. And now that you say it's a financial hardship, well, it cost me $1,000 to move those sheds. That was a financial hardship for me.
Madam Chair, might I?
Yes, please.
Ally, are sheds regulated differently than garages as permanent structures in the Land Development Code?
So they're under the same code section. I don't have the language up here. Oops. But there's different requirements. So sheds that are 200 square feet in size or less on a residential property also can take advantage of reduced setbacks. However, those setbacks are both 5 feet from the rear and the side. So there are different standards. The detached garage has the reduced setback to 7.5 feet. So they're slightly different. There's still size limitations in play with that as well.
Okay, and is a detached garage, is a shed considered a permanent structure when there's not otherwise a foundation associated with it within the code?
That typically,
Or not otherwise
we
defined?
typically defer to the building department and the building code on what they determine as permanent and how it has to be
Affixed.
tied to the ground, any sort of
Hurricane
protection.
issues
Yeah,
and things like
correct.
that, okay. So I only ask those questions, because there is a difference in regulation between a shed and a detached garage within the Land Development Code and within the Florida Building Code, which I understand is not this board's purview. So, you know, to your point, that there is a difference in regulation between the two. So the same things are not being applied to your property as are being applied to this property. However, I'd like to also just bring it back to this application. While I understand your concerns, those are probably better discussed with staff if you have concerns with your own property. Here we are about an application for an after-the-fact variance for a different property, with regard specifically to their garage and the setback requirements.
I have a
Mr. Hrabowski?
ridiculous question.
Bring it.
Are we to meet every criteria on this, or you can just meet one or two?
I believe the code says that you are required to meet all of the criteria.
Thank you.
Is there any other members of the public that would like to make any comments or thoughts on this application? Yes, sir, if you can come to the podium and please be sworn in.
If you could just raise your right hand to be sworn, sir. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And if you could just state your name and address for the record.
My name's Stephen Oparnica. I live at 707 Enclosure Drive, Tarpon Springs.
Thank you, sir. What would you like to present to us this evening?
I'd just like to know for what reason this person would care about where their garage is. I think this is a huge waste of time for the taxpayers and for all of you here. This is clearly retaliation from him because our neighbors had a problem with this fence situation, and now he's bringing things like this up. He's hanging Black Lives Matter flags, which to me is a racist flag, right at the edge of these people's house when he could be put in front of his house. And it's clear retaliation, and it's just ridiculous. And I don't understand what the point of this is. We're gonna move someone's garage? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So, what are we doing? I just, that's all I really have to say. I mean, like you know, they had this problem with this fence. I live on the next street, but, you know, it's just, this whole thing doesn't make any sense. It's a huge waste of time. I mean, they're gonna move their entire, you know, their entire garage because this person doesn't like what happened with the fence. It's ridiculous. It just is, you know? It's clearly harassing these people, and it's just ridiculous. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Did anyone have any questions for the gentleman who is at the podium, or?
He's just a member of the public. He's not necessarily an affected party, so.
Okay.
No, I just live on, I'm the neighbor, so.
Well, thank you for
Yeah.
being active in your community.
Yes,
That's
I
appreciative.
appreciate it. All right?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to say anything tonight? Yes, sir. And were you sworn in earlier?
No, I wasn't.
Could you please raise your right hand?
Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, it is.
And if you could please state your name and address for the record.
The name is Brooks Fountain, 1505 East Tessier Drive. I see that you're leaning from the very beginning toward admitting your mistake and just approving this, this motion. And I agree with that. I think it's a good idea. I think it'll settle things quickly, and I don't think anybody will be hurt in any way, financially, in any way, which I think is the big problem here is money. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to say anything? Yes, ma'am. Come on up.
Hi, my name is Sia Prevey, and I live at 1503 East Tessier Drive.
One moment, ma'am. Were you sworn in earlier?
I was.
Okay. Sorry about that.
We never had, we've lived at this address. We built the house that we started building in 2013 and finished in 2014 and moved in. And we weren't even aware that there was a setback for the garage on the side and that we weren't in compliance until a code violation came up. And I think that it came up in retaliation of the fence, and the fence in question. I know that we're not here for the fence, but the fence was built, which is a beautiful fence, and I have no problem with it, but it was built all the way down the driveway, which is fine, but right up to the street, within mere inches. So it blocked our view of oncoming traffic and pedestrians, and we only live a block from the middle school, so we've got a lot of kids that are walking up and down and riding their bikes. We could not see backing up. So we called the city and talked to them, and they realized that they had made an issue in not having a sight triangle with a fence built so that we could see and there was no obstruction. This garage situation came up as a result of that. So I don't know how we could possibly financially move that. I mean, I'm a teacher. I don't make all that much money. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay. Thank you. And for clarification, you are the resident at 705 North Florida Avenue, the property?
1503 East Tessier.
I'm sorry. I was looking at one address. And
That's
thank
okay,
you.
that's
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions of anyone? If you could please step forward and be sworn in and state your name and address for the record. Yes, ma'am.
If you could just raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and state your name and address for the record.
I am Christy Burge. I'm at 1502 East Tessier Drive. I am also a neighbor down the same street.
Okay, and you said that you had questions for the property owner, is that correct?
I do have questions. Now, they have been living there for quite a while now, and when they built their house brand new, I'm under the assumption that they had all their proper permits and okays and everything for their home and their garage. Now, previously, for many years, there used to be a 4-foot chain link fence that had no problem with visibility. That was there. Then when this 6-foot privacy fence came up, and there's been an issue with it ever since, that came recently. But the house and the garage has been there for what, over a decade? 8 years? So I'm not understanding why it was okay to be there before, but now because of this fence, which goes right over the sidewalk, and the children cannot continue their walk, I don't understand what's going on. I think this needs to be investigated.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming and being active in your community. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to make any comments? Property owner, yes, ma'am.
Thank you. The fence in question, when we built our house, we were asked to put a sidewalk in, which cost us about $4,000, and we did put a sidewalk in. Our neighbor's fence effectively cuts off the sidewalk so that the kids must go into the street to walk.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
And it does seem, as council has wisely brought up, is that while we do recognize that this fence in question is a topic of conversation, to say the least, it is not the property nor the condition which is in the application that is before us. The application that is before us is presented to us as the applicant being the city, which is a unique thing for us, but not completely unheard of, to right a wrong that I personally am calling an innocent mistake, because we are human, and is addressing the side setback of this garage, not a fence on another piece of property. That's another property and another issue for another board for another day. If we had any other people from the public wanting to speak, otherwise we will close public comment. Thank you. Okay, staff/applicant, any other comments before we move on?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay. Okay, so if we may have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion from the board?
I would just like to state for the record, I actually understand both sides of this situation, and unfortunately, it seems the city is the instigator. That you guys wouldn't be at war with each other if the city hadn't made the mistake. And I can't apologize on behalf of the city, but if I could, I would, because it's good to get along, you know what I mean? Especially living next door to each other, and just try to do the best you can to not upset one another. But I don't think this would have happened at all if it wasn't for those mistakes, and it's really unfortunate, man. I don't know what to say. If there was going to be a code enforcement war, please reconsider that, because nobody gets on top of that. That's a losing battle for everybody. I mean, please do the best you can to be respectful of each other from now on, because that can only get worse. You know what I'm saying? So.
Thank you.
That's all I have to say.
Ms. Simon?
No comment.
Mr. Boris? Okay. I echo Mr. Hrabowski's sentiment in regarding that this is, a situation where the city's trying to right a wrong, and what I would like to believe is an innocent mistake, no malicious intent. And yes, there are costs, there's financial costs involved in rectifying situations, be it moving a fence, a shed, a garage, a pool. Reminds us of the application we had earlier. We could have denied that and said, move your pool. I think we all recognize that that's a bit out of line for the spirit of what we're trying to accomplish here today. So with that being said, may we have a roll call?
Ms. Simon?
Yes.
Mr. Grabowski?
Yes.
Mr. Burris?
Yes.
Ms. Turner?
Yes. Okay, so we're moving on to application number 2264 for the variance to increase the maximum allowable driveway width. Properties at 425 West Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. Okay, may we have the staff presentation, please?
Yes. Okay, this property is located on the south side of West Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, not Drive, outlined here in yellow. The property itself is zoned R70, which is a 1 and 2 family residential zoning district. There's multifamily zoning to the south of the property, and then R60, 1 and 2 family zoning to the north. The applicants are here today requesting a variance to allow an existing driveway to be replaced and widened and be wider than what is allowed by the Land Development Code. As you may recall, back in April, the applicant came before us to request a similar variance. They have since then, and the board did deny that request, they have since then revised their application, reduced the size that they're requesting, and have submitted the current variance that you see today. They are proposing a total width for the circular driveway to be 37.5 feet wide. They are allowed a maximum of 23 feet. And just for your reference, the previous request was for 45.5 feet total width, so this is a difference of 8 feet. And just as a reminder, the width of the driveway is measured at the property line, so along here. The Land Development Code states that the maximum total driveway width measured at the property line shall not exceed 33% of the lot width or 28 feet, whichever is less. This property has a width of 70 feet, which allows them to have a maximum of 23 feet for a driveway. The existing driveway is currently non-conforming, and it is 29.5 feet in width. And again, they are proposing a width of 37.5 feet. The site plan that was provided by the applicant, just for clarification, all the area that they shaded in blue is the existing driveway. The areas in yellow, which are along here and up here, is where they're proposing to widen it. The variance is really only affected along the property line, so it's these two pieces here, and they're looking to go, I believe, 4 feet out on either side. With looking at some considerations for the Land Development Code as well as the context of the area, this property does meet the minimum lot area, width, and depth requirements for the R70 district, so it is a conforming lot of record. The existing home also meets and exceeds the minimum front setback requirement, which is 25 feet. When looking at the surrounding neighborhood, specifically between Banana Street and South Spring Boulevard, along Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, there are several properties that have circular driveways similar to what's proposed. It's a little hard to see, but I've highlighted them in this blue dashed line here. I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 along that property. When measuring those existing driveways, the average circular driveway widths along this street is approximately 34.5 feet, so it is wider than what would typically be allowed for any of these properties. So the proposed 37.5 feet is more consistent with what's seen in the area. And just for reference, the lot widths range between 70 and 120 feet, so this property is one of the narrowest lots on the street. Again, these are just images from Google Street View. This is looking west along Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard at the existing driveway configuration. And this is just a closer look at the existing driveway. And again, for reference, here are your variance criteria, and I can answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Keene? Okay, so if there is the applicant present, if you would like to stand up to the podium. And have you been sworn in, sir?
Yes, I am.
All right, great. If you could just state your name and address for the record.
Tractor.
Okay, as well?
Yes, Gary Swales, 325 West MLK Junior Drive, Tarpon.
So, Mr. Swales, we meet again.
Yes, we do.
So if you want to maybe share some information about these changes that you're presenting this evening.
Well, Okay, yes. People come plummeting down that street. They do not stop. So how can I convey that to the board? Well, I took a video. And I shot a video down near my driveway of people, there it is there, and out of 9 cars, and inclusive of that truck, that big truck, they don't stop, man. They roll that stop sign, and I've got a video of it, yes. Yes.
I just wanted to interject. We can show the video. I just want to let you know there is some sound. You can hear wind, so I just wanted you guys to be prepared for that. So just let me know when you're ready to play.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment.
Okay, can you state your name and address for the record, sir?
Yeah, Ira Solon, company address is 1036 Philippi Parkway, Safety Harbor, Florida.
Thank you.
When we were here last and discussing the access egress situation, the board's decision was predicated on the fact that, yes, you are governed by that intersection, but at the end of the day, there's a stop sign there. And because there's a stop sign there, there really is no reason to consider this an issue, because obviously everybody is going to stop at that stop sign. So Mr. Swales went out on his own and took a video of what actually is occurring at that intersection on a routine basis. And that's where we're going to go from here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ira. Okay, very well said. Truck 1 rolled it. Car 2 rolled it. Car 3 rolled it. Car 4 rolled it. And boy, they're barreling now. Oh, they're getting it on. He stopped because there was a car there, so that's the 1 out of 9 that stopped. Ooh, the next one coming up, is he gonna stop? No, he really rolls it. Oh boy. He rolls it too. You have any more rollers? Yep. So this is a crazy, they're not stopping. And when I go to back out of my driveway, I have pictures here, 2 each, if I may approach the panel and hand you a couple pictures, please. Would that be possible? Thank
Before
you.
you do that, can I ask you a question on that video?
Sir, yes, sir.
Is that video taken from the house in the corner?
No, that video's being taken at my driveway, 4 feet in on my property. Okay, where the telephone pole is, see that on my, no, on my oh, yes, I'm sorry. I took it right there. I got in between the telephone pole and the tree and took it right there after his bush, or right by his bush, so I could kind of hide there.
Prior to that stop sign, there's a bridge, like a hump,
Yes, sir.
and before that, the traffic is coming in a 90-degree angle, correct?
The traffic is coming around Whitcomb Bayou, especially when the school lets out. There's 50.
I understand that, but my point is it's coming in a 90-degree angle, goes over the bridge, and then makes a right into
Yes.
Martin Luther King.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The video that you showed, the vehicles slow down. They may not have stopped 100%. They slow down except for the last one, the red one. So it's making sense. When you're making a left turn in such a short area, going over a hump, the bridge is not a flat bridge. You gotta go over it. You gotta slow down. That truck did not come in barreling down through the stop sign at 30 miles an hour.
Okay.
They slow
Yes.
down. They have
Yes.
to slow down because of
Yes.
the way the bridge is.
Yes, sir. Okay, I concur with that. However, the videos I didn't get and the motorcycles and car I hear from young people with loud mufflers, they just look and they'll barrel and they'll run through that stop
Sir,
sign.
I live on Riverside Drive across from the soccer field park in
Yes.
Tarpon Springs.
Yes.
And the stop sign is 3 homes from mine. And these kids are coming down 60 miles an hour. I gotta be careful.
Okay, and what happens is my egress, because I can't see them, they can't see me, I need to be able to go around my driveway so I can see them before they come and not back out into
But
it.
there is no obstruction there other than the telephone
Well,
pole
there is.
and the 2 palm trees.
Well, there is right here. if I may show you. These are pictures. May I approach the panel?
Yes, we'll just need to take this from
Thank
you.
you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And if you would,
Thank you, sir.
if you would be kind, when you take a look at the second one to hand it to him,
That's fine. I can take a look right here.
okay.
Yes, that one.
Okay, first picture. That is coming around where the stop sign is. Okay? It's pretty indicative of blind driveway. The second picture is me looking out my window of my truck. I don't see them, they don't see me. There's a city telephone pole there, there's 2 palms, and the neighbor's trees, and then I have a palm.
Can you tell us if the widening of the driveway in the center, as you're indicating, right where the 2 small palm trees you have there, will make any difference? In what way will it make a difference?
In what regard?
Well, you say you need to widen it, make that island that you have there smaller. Is that the idea?
Just go ahead.
Because it gives him additional space to
To,
navigate that.
to navigate the driveway so I can pull in, pull around, and be able to go back out, but with me being at the front, watching people come by, not backing my big truck up. And sometimes they honk at me and just lay on the horn. I go, dude, I'm backing out of my own driveway.
As a contractor, I see this all the time. It's not uncommon. And we can't blatantly go in and say, let's pave the whole thing.
No.
Because regardless of whether it's Tarpon Springs City or Clearwater, Safety Harbor, whatever, it's not gonna happen. So we look to do as much as we can.
The least amount as possible that I can get a variance to give me 4 lousy feet, excuse the lousy, where I can turn my truck and be able to get out by looking forward. Then I can see them, because I'll pull up where my garage is, pull my truck, and right now I can't do it. I've got boulders there, because if you run your truck on those rocks, they become a mud hazard. It looks like hell. It's just horrible, and my truck goes down. Oh, she's caramba.
Looking at it from another standpoint, what are the alternatives, really? I mean, he's limited to what he can do. Can you park in the street? That would create a worse hazard.
Illegal.
And I'm not sure what the regulations are, it's probably illegal. So all we're looking to do is give him as much as we can without going crazy with it.
I ask a question?
And I think, you know, from an aesthetic standpoint, what he's doing is gonna look beautiful. I don't think anybody would have an objection in the neighborhood to it. And we're looking, you know, understandably, the original footprint wasn't reality either, but we couldn't reduce that. I mean, it would totally reduce his ability to navigate there, and adding in another 4 feet, I don't really see why that would rub the board or the city the wrong way.
Again, my question, the extra feet that you need on the center island, backing up a pickup truck that he has,
Right.
in what way will it help him backing up and looking at the road, whether it's clear or not?
Because it gives him more navigatable room. It's not great, it's not a perfect science, but it's better than what's there. And I firmly believe it's
It's a
gonna.
good question. I'll pull in to where my garage is, excuse me, Ira, because it's a valid question. Where my garage is on the 20-foot section, I'll pull up, I'll be able to get my truck around, which it won't go around that driveway. I've got to do 3-4 point turns, then I'm back in the.
So the key for you, excuse me, the key for you is then, by widening the center island, you'll be able to back up the truck and come around the circle to be able to get out. Is that
Yes,
what you're
sir.
telling me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the car that you have parked on the left, where will it be parked? The other
That's
car
my-
that you have
That's my neighbor's car.
in your driveway?
I don't have, oh, no, that's an old picture. That was a renter I had there. That's not my car.
So the truck is the only vehicle that's on the driveway?
Well, but then if someone comes to live with me or someone else, but you know what? I know where you're going with that. All I
I'm
know.
not going anywhere, I'm just asking the question.
Okay, very well. I need that whole driveway, so the thought of anyone moving in, I don't want anyone to move in. So I'll be able to use my driveway.
Can I ask a question in the city? The bushes that are on the first house by the stop sign, is there any city ordinance on this?
So we have, we do have site visibility. I have to see if I have a good picture. You're talking about here?
Yes.
So there are site visibility triangle requirements in our code, and at intersections, it basically measures a distance of 30 feet in either direction to create a triangle.
Okay.
I can't speak to whether or not those bushes fall within that site visibility triangle or not. That's something that typically, if we had information, we would refer it to code enforcement. They go out and verify to see if it's an issue. It may not necessarily be in our measured site visibility triangle, but it still potentially could create a visibility issue. But those are the requirements of the code.
He may have valid points with the stop sign and all that, and I know they run fast around. But if the city has an ordinance on this, then his problem is solved. He doesn't need to widen the driveway.
Madam Chair, might I ask a few questions to make a clarification, please?
Yes.
Does a paver driveway need to go through the permitting process?
Yes.
Okay, do you know if they check site visibility and things like that with the driveway aprons during the site visibility, or during the permitting process?
So we would check the existing driveway with what's around it. We wouldn't necessarily go to the adjacent property and check the intersection.
Okay, so presumably when this driveway was installed, that was taken into account?
If it was installed under the current,
Well,
whatever
under-
the regulations at the time were.
Under the permitting, right,
Yeah.
okay. So then my advice to the board, as it always is safety is not one of your criteria. You know, and I know that sounds crass, and I know that sounds inhuman, but it's not one of your criteria.
Can I make a point on that? Yes, the driveway was approved when the bushes were small. Now the bushes are 3 times the size. So the situation changes. He cannot back up his driveway.
And my advice to you is still the same. The bushes are
Not
not.
to
par-
consider it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the bushes are not part of the application. Safety is not part of your criteria. You know, that's a different issue, as the Madam Chair said before, that's a different issue for a different board. I'm not saying it's not a problem. I'm not saying that it's not something that needs to be considered or that needs to be handled. I'm just saying that that's not the purview of this board for this type of application.
And with that, Ms. Keene, would you mind forwarding or reversing to the slide that has our criteria? That was part of your presentation to make sure we are clear on these things. And I do appreciate the clarification from council to where it is unfortunate, understand, not trying to sound crass, of safety not being part of the criteria. And it is an interesting intersection because it's not a true traditional 90-degree four-way stop intersection. There is that curvature, which is of your neighbor's property, where it kind of leans into it. So obviously we don't have anyone else here for public comment. Just to double check, we haven't had any communication from email or phone calls or letters from the public?
There were no emails or, yeah.
No, we didn't get any.
Thank you.
So I would like to hello, are you here to speak on this?
This is the driveway at 325 Martin Luther King. On Tessier? That application has already been heard. The variance after the fact was granted to the property owner. Right. Or to the city, excuse me.
I have some comments and concerns. Is this the appropriate venue?
I would say that application has already been addressed and spoken, but if you would like to stick around a bit and maybe address any questions or concerns with city staff, we can see what we can do to assist. Thank you. Sorry, sir. Where were we?
Well, yeah, I sort of forgot myself. So,
We're looking at the criteria.
yes. So again, it seems to me that, and let me just read it off of there because this has got much more. The need for the requested variance arises out of the physical surrounding, shape, topographical conditions, and physical or environmental conditions that are unique to the specific property involved and do not apply generally to property located in the same district. That's absolutely met. I mean, it's true. It happens to be the narrowest property in that area, correct? And since the driveway is governed by how wide the property is, already he's a leg down, right? So number two, the conditions or special circumstances peculiar to the property have not been self-created or have resulted from an action by the applicant or with prior knowledge or approval of the applicant. Again, that's met because, he didn't do that. He's not the one who created this situation, whether it's the shrubs or the trees or the pole or the fact that people don't obey the law. He didn't create that problem. Literal enforcement of the requirements of the City of Tarpon Springs Comp Plan or Comprehensive Land Development Code would have the effect of denying the applicant or reasonable use of the property or legally conforming buildings or other structures. And the requested variance is the minimum variance that would make possible the reasonable use of the property. Again, it's minimal, so that's met. It's very, very little that he's asking for. Granting the variance will not confer any special privilege. Well, we already know that because everybody in the area has the stone pavers and the circular driveway all around. So that is absolutely met, and he will be improving what's already existing. It's not like people are going to be upset about this. I can't imagine anybody in the city being upset about this. Granting the variance will not substantially diminish property values. Bang, met. It's going to improve because it's going to look better. It's not harming anyone. So just common sense, whether it's safety or anything else, all of these conditions are met. They were met the last time, and he's gone, through all these contortions to try to, get this thing done. So again,
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, sir.
I don't know what else to say.
You're always going to be counted on for expressing yourself fully. Ms. Simon, Mr. Boris, any other comments?
Are we still in the public hearing portion?
I believe so. So since you are the public, we can close that public hearing comment. You will have an opportunity for, a rebuttal or closing comments. But now we will go, if the staff has any rebuttal or closing comments. Ms. Keene?
No, I have nothing
Thank
additional.
you. So before we look for a motion, gentlemen, do you have any further comments or statements that you would like to leave us with?
No, thank you. But thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. So if we may have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other board discussion? All right, so let's have a roll call, please.
Ms. Ms. Simon?
Yes.
Mr. Urbowski?
Yes.
Mr. Burris?
Yes.
Ms. Turner?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you, City of Tarpon Springs. May I ask a question? And I'm not pushing the envelope, but Could I get the 8 feet that I originally wanted?
Man, let me tell you.
Okay, okay.
The door is
no.
open, man.
I
Oh,
appreciate
okay.
your
Oh, that was
persistence,
bad.
though.
Thank you very much.
Sorry you had to go
Thank
through
you,
this
City
twice,
of
man.
Taunton.
Right.
I love this place.
All right, enjoy.
We're glad y'all are here. Thank you so much. Have a great one. Okay, so let's, as we said earlier, go to an adjustment to our agenda. If we can have, we have approval of minutes. We have our February 23rd. If there is a motion and a second for approval.
Make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, motion and second. May I have a roll call for February 23rd approval?
Ms. Simon?
Yes.
Mr. Urbowski?
Yes.
Mr. Burris?
Yes.
Ms. Turner?
Yes. And for our April 27th, do we have a motion for approval of those minutes?
I make a motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Motion and second. May we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Simon?
Yes.
Mr. Urbowski?
Yes.
Mr. Burris?
Yes.
Ms. Turner?
Yes. All right, so thank you. So, I don't believe if we wanted to go to any staff comments for our meeting tonight. Because we were going to wrap up the meeting, adjourn.
Okay. Got it.
And if I may,
Sorry.
just say if we could maybe take like a 5-minute personal break in between adjourning of this meeting and then going into our workshop.
Yes. I have no staff comments.
Okay, well, thank you. Any board comments? Seeing none. Okay, so let's adjourn our meeting at 7:37, and let's reconvene in about 5 minutes for us to go through our workshop activities.
What about the lady?
Yes, because what we're doing is we're going to adjourn this meeting, take a personal break. We can talk to our guest.
Right, because the workshop we can't take any action at.
No action. Like to reopen the comprehensive plan workshop for Board of Adjustments at 7:49 PM.
Okay, so in the interest of time, we have a couple options for the board to consider. Well, first of all, I think you all are aware that we are in the process of updating the city's comprehensive plan. This is a plan that basically touches every facet of the community in terms of how it's developed and grows in the future. And I think a few of you attended a workshop, I believe it was back in February, basically as an introductory to the project, and we told you we'd be coming back to you. We are here now, coming back to you for some actual input. We have put together with our consultant team 3 different exercises for you to complete. These are actually the same exercises that that the general public can complete as well, but this is you completing it as your perspective from a Board of Adjustment member. We're doing this, or attempting to do this, with all of our appointed boards, so we're trying to get all of that feedback by a certain period of time to influence the update to the plan. So what we can do is, we were provided the information ahead of time. You have the 3 exercises. You also were provided an information board packet. That is basically just general background information that will help you in any of the exercises that we're doing.
I'm good.
What I would potentially suggest, and it's up to the board of what you want to do, is you can look through it. I know some of you have had the opportunity to look at it, some have not, and ask any questions. But I can walk through each of the exercises so you know what you're supposed to do. We can either complete them here at the meeting, or if you would prefer to basically ask the questions, then go home, not talk to anyone, because you're under sunshine law, about the participation, complete your exercises, and then you can turn the packets back to City Hall, to
We
our
can
department.
talk to you about it, though, right?
You can talk to us, yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
so we could, if we have a question at
Yes,
home.
just
we
don't
could
talk
call-
with each other.
Right,
You can only
yeah.
talk here with each other.
So if we choose to take homework,
Yes.
when is our homework due?
So we would prefer to have it by as soon as possible, but if you can get it to us, we can collect it at the next board meeting in July.
Oh, okay. So it's not like we need to get this to you on Tuesday?
Yes.
Okay.
And I believe we do have an application in July, so we will be meeting in July. So,
Fantastic.
Well,
so
and
we can do
particular
that. But I wanted to
thinking-
walk through what each exercise was, just so you guys understood, and that you have questions, you can ask them now. And then, again, you're welcome to reach out to staff and talk to us in the meantime. I'm happy to do that.
Okay, and we
So-
can, before I forget, since Ms. Rich is absent, and I know she would be keenly interested in participating, make a connection with her to give her assignment and instructions.
Yes, I've already reached out, and I was going to send her. Really, the only thing you guys didn't receive ahead of time are the actual stickers. But I'll let her know she can come and grab those from us.
Thank you.
Okay, so, excuse me, exercise 1 is your small packet. We put cover sheets on here for you. Very important in all of them, please put your name on the packet so that we know which board you're associated with, name and board. This survey is really just a typical survey. We call it a general survey because it really does cover every topic that the comprehensive plan could potentially cover. So probably your biggest resource are those informational boards, the extra packet at the end that we gave you, if you have any questions. And specific questions, we reference boards. There's letters at the bottom right-hand corner that you can look at to get some more information to answer those questions. So are there any particular questions on the general survey, whether how to do it or any of the questions you may have seen?
I did mine. I'm a nerd.
And if anyone's done, I'll take it tonight, too.
I just did this one.
Okay.
I'm not.
All right. No questions? Okay.
Straightforward. It's straight, yeah.
All right, so exercise 2, maybe we need most exercise, but it's the one that has the stickers attached to it. And this looks like a lot, but we hopefully made it easy. This is the infill development types exercise. What we did is basically break down the city into 5 different areas. There's no really rhyme or reason to it, just to make it easier to view it on a map. So it's not like it's dividing it into any sort of particular context. And what we're asking you to do is to look at different infill types. Infill is basically properties that are interior to the city, that are surrounded by development, that are prime for development, and we're asking you, what would you like to see in these areas? So we have 2 things of stickers. We have residential types and commercial types. We wrote what they are on the front and back of each sheet, so you know, because it's hard to see on the pictures. The first, or the second page in your packet for this tells you more details about each of those infill types, so you can get ideas of what you would like to see. Yes?
I have 2 commercials.
Well, that doesn't work. We'll give you a
No,
residential.
no, I also have a
okay.
residential, so I have a total of 3. 1
Okay.
residential and 2 commercial.
That makes sense. We were short one when we were putting these together. So I will take that back.
Now you're not.
So what we're asking you to do is to show which commercial and residential infill types you'd like to see in each of these areas. You're going to put the sticker basically on just the general location. You don't have to be site specific. If you want to get detailed and write on the map, write whatever you want to see on that map. If you don't want anything, you don't have to use the stickers. You can use as much or as little of each of them as you would like. So it's really, what is your ideal infill development in these areas?
So, and just to be clear, like if I'm here, context area, board E.
Okay.
If I'm like, you know, looking at commercial, pop-up commercial and accessory commercial. If I would just put zone 1, I am cool with having those 2, and it doesn't have to be in a specific spot in zone 1.
Just generally where.
It's just boom, boom. Okay,
Yes,
I
and
gotcha.
just so you're aware, so the first map, this one here, just shows the entire city, how we broke it up. You can actually put your stickers on, we have each area bigger, so you can put them on those maps.
Okay.
If you put them on the one with the full city, that's fine too, we'll figure it out.
Okay, so then board F is our legend
Yes.
of infill development types that explains. This is so cool and exciting.
Oh,
My
see, you're
God.
playing planner.
I'm like, I'm totally geeking out on
Yeah.
this. I'm like back in grad school. This is so fun.
Yeah, so you just, this is really, like I said, your ideal location, and use as much or as little of each of the stickers that you would like to do. And again, if you guys have questions on this when you're working through it, feel free to reach out to staff and we can help you guys. Are there any other questions about exercise 2?
Why aren't y'all as excited as I am?
You need to be an urban planner. And we do recognize this is a lot to ask everybody, so we appreciate your input, but it's very valued and helpful in this process. Okay, so the last exercise we have is exercise 3, and this is our transportation mapping exercise. So basically there's 3 different maps, and each one tells or is asking for information about where you would like to see more walking connections, so sidewalk connections, maybe trails, things like that. The second map is biking connections, where you'd like to see those, and transit connections, so trolley, bus, anything like that. How we broke this up, and I pulled the informational boards that were related to this packet and put it in here with you so you didn't have to flip through it. So the first 2 are just background information, and then once you get to the maps that look like this, you'll see this one's walking. What we're asking you to do is put a number. If you say I think there needs to be more walking connections here, put a number, 1, and on the back of the page, write number 1 and say what you'd like to see.
Sidewalk,
Exactly.
lighting, et
And you can
cetera.
be as specific or as not specific as you'd like. If you don't have any specific comments, that's okay too. But this is just your this is like your wish list is what we're looking for.
You're saying to put a 1 in multiple places and then you just have a.
You could do that if you want to put 1 or A, whatever you want, some sort of code.
Right.
Saying, I just want more sidewalk connections here. You can put multiple ones. I'm fine with that too.
Like 1 could be sidewalks, and you got 1, 1, 1, 1s
Yeah.
all over the place.
Yep, you can do that. Or say you want to say 1, I specifically want a sidewalk on Enclosure Drive or something like that.
Exactly where they need one.
Oh, okay. There you go.
I mean, that's the most dangerous road
Or
in town.
Anclosure Road.
Somebody was literally just hit over there.
Sidewalk and lighting essential on Enclosure. Yeah.
Realize what happened with that when they put that development up and they put the fence around it?
Yeah, and it's pitch black.
Ed Armstrong fought so they didn't have to get the sidewalk.
We're still
They put the sidewalk in the middle, and now it's not a locked gate on each end, but people don't know that. They don't know they can walk through that neighborhood. That was their solution.
Is that at that really pretty neighborhood? What is that called there? Some nicer.
I forget, what's the place that's got the white plastic fence around? What?
Is it Tarpon Key?
It is not Tarpon Key, it is,
Was it just recently constructed?
no, this was
No.
years ago.
Okay, okay.
Across from Holiday Lake Estates you're talking about, right?
I'm talking about on
Gulf Road?
Anclote Road and,
Oh, Anclote Road.
and Anclote Drive, or Anclote Boulevard. What the heck is it called?
Yes,
Linger
please.
Longer, is that it?
It used to be
Oh.
where Linger Longer used
Yes,
to be.
yes.
Get wrong, it is
It
at
is
the end.
Tarpon Key? Yeah, Tarpon Key.
And I've walked that road. It's scary dangerous if you
Yeah.
don't know to go inside that development to cut through. It's just so I don't know how that would work though, because
So-
the city's not going to want to.
Yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong, Pat. So Enclosure Road, that's a county road at that location. And I believe there is a project the county is working on, and probably a great contact to get more information about that is through Caroline Lanford in our office. She's our certified transportation planner. So you can reach out to Caroline, and I can give you her contact information. She has more information about what they're looking to do on that road. I'm not sure exactly where in the process.
Caroline Langford
Lanford, Lanford.
in planning and zoning.
Yes. And she is definitely our transportation guru in our office, so she's
Okay.
great if you've got specific questions related to this exercise. She's a really good resource.
And where is a map that delineates the county roads from the city roads? Is
I
there,
would love
does that
to see
exist?
it. I don't know if we
the
really
county
truly
has
have, we have one, but. Yeah, we have one, but not a great one.
One on the county website.
So there is, okay, because it's been on my list of things to look at.
But even if it's not a city road, if you have enough people that are advocating and pointing out, we have this issue, then that can help empower the city to go to the county, the state, to say, we have a problem here.
Is that correct?
In my
Potentially.
idealized universe, it ain't gonna hurt.
Well, what I say is, they have to do, just like we have to do different, like, public outreach for different projects and things that we have, the county has to do the same. And I know for this particular project, that's why I suggest talking to Caroline is, I believe that they asked her for input about, like, who to reach out to, who to contact, and she'll be able to tell you. I'm not sure where they are in their process, but
Okay.
we recognize, yes, there's some issues on that road for sure.
Right, thank you.
Okay, so those are your 3 exercises. And if everyone is comfortable and promises not to speak to your friends, because you're all really nice to each other about this exercise, you can take it with you, complete it, and then either bring it back to us before the next meeting, but we'll just need it by the next meeting.
This is fantastic. I mean,
Great.
Thank you for all your hard work and thoughtfulness and giving us this homework.
Putting you guys to work.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic.
No, I think it's fantastic as
Yeah.
well. I
Okay.
just wish I had more time for.
And now
before
you
today.
do.
You do,
Yeah,
you
no,
have a
I
whole
do.
month.
Yeah, so I really
whole
appreciate
month.
that.
So
I will
I
definitely.
expect excellent work.
Why would you expect anything less than us?
I don't at all. You guys are always wonderful. Well, with that, that was much quicker than anticipated, so that's great. But like I said, in the meantime, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and we'll help you through this. But we do appreciate your time and input, not only for our normal meetings, but on these projects too, because it really does help us. So
Beautiful.
That's all I got.
Interesting, okay. Awesome, thank y'all so much. So do we dismiss, adjourn?
Think so.
All right, dismiss, adjourn, 8:02.
All right, thank you.